In 2017 and 2018, the relations between the United States and North Korea were tenser than ever. They were so tense that Wikipedia has named the period the 2017 to 2018 North Korea crisis, compared to today when everything is completely chill. So by 2018, the people of the United States were very afraid that they would be killed in a nuclear war, which was only the 71st consecutive year they've had to worry about that. Particularly concerned were the people of Hawaii, the US state which is relatively close to North Korea and has a bit of a history with being attacked from the sky. So it's easy to imagine the panic when, on January 13th, 2018, the state of Hawaii accidentally told everyone on the islands that they were going to die. It was 8:07 a.m. that day when the people of Hawaii checked their phones to see an emergency alert telling them that a ballistic missile was heading for the state. The notification read, "Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill." Needless to say, there was no missile coming. So how did this happen? The blame falls on the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, or HAEMA, the government body that's supposed to handle statewide emergencies. Instead, they decided to create one. The story of what went down has changed a bit since the initial reports. Originally, HAEMA said that the whole thing was simply the fault of one employee who came into work, tried to do a test of the missile alert system, and accidentally sent out a real missile alert because he selected the wrong menu option. This was done only 7 minutes into his shift, beginning what must have been the most stressful workday that anyone has ever experienced. All of this made the public wonder why the government designed a system where the difference between a routine test and statewide panic was clicking an option on a drop-down menu. 2 weeks later, after an investigation, the Hawaiian government said it was actually a little more complicated. Apparently, just as the employee was settling in for the day, a supervisor decided to run an unscheduled drill in which he pretended to be from the United States Pacific Command. He started the drill by saying, "Exercise, exercise, exercise," which is how the agency indicates that they're conducting a drill while simultaneously reminding their employees to hit the gym. Although the supervisor apparently also said, "This is not a drill," which is typically not a great thing to say when you're conducting a drill. So that one employee thought it was real, whipped out that drop-down menu, and sent out the alert deliberately. He later claimed that he didn't know it was a drill because his coworker picked up the call and put the phone on speaker after the supervisor said the exercise part. But there were apparently 5 other people in the room who knew it wasn't real, so maybe this employee is just not the sharpest Hawaii emergency management agent in the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency. So with that, the alert was sent to every smartphone in the state. On top of that, television and radio broadcasts were interrupted by this message.
The U.S. Pacific Command has detected a missile threat to Hawaii. A missile may impact on land or sea within minutes. This is not a drill. If you are indoors, stay indoors. If you are outdoors, seek immediate shelter in a building.
Needless to say, the entire state erupted into panic. Media reports prior to that had estimated that it would take about 20 minutes for a missile from North Korea to hit Hawaii. So with only 20 minutes to save themselves, many people began running to find shelter. Some people tried calling 911 but found that the lines were busy, which caused even more panic. And a lot of people called or texted their loved ones to say goodbye, which was a great opportunity for Hawaiians to find out which of their relatives likes them enough to send them a message. The streets also descended into chaos as people on the road began speeding home to see their loved ones. One congresswoman, Colleen Hanabusa, said her husband saw cars going 100 miles per hour on the freeway, but she herself was going to a meeting at a Hawaiian restaurant chain called Zippy's. She said, quote, "When I got there and walked in, they said, 'Take any table you want.' People went running out of here. You really have to hand it to the staff at Zippy's for keeping the burgers on the grill in the midst of a nuclear threat." One woman named Trisha Padilla was with her family when they got the alert. She said that she and her husband had their kids put on jeans and tennis shoes, the perfect armor against a ballistic missile. The family then hid in a steel shipping container on the lawn of their property. Which begs the very simple question, why did they have a steel shipping container on their lawn? You know the HOA was fuming over that one. Another woman said she and her husband went onto the beach because they were afraid of being crushed by a building like in 9/11. Mind you, they did this despite the fact that the notification specifically told them to seek immediate shelter. There's really no helping some people. But I guess she reread the notification because the woman then pulled out her phone and Googled "safety nuclear bomb how shelter," which led her to this Business Insider article about how to survive a nuclear blast. And that's gotta be the absolute worst time to get blocked by a paywall. Perhaps most famously, at least one person decided to put their children into a manhole for safety, so they could die surrounded by sewage instead of palm trees and the beach. That idea was so bad that someone stopped fleeing the missile to take a video of it for everyone on Twitter to enjoy. One man online described having just dropped off his kid at the airport and being at Zippy's when he got the notification and had to choose between going to his one kid at the airport, his 2 kids at home, or his wife at work. But we all know he really should have just stayed at Zippy's, where the beer was still flowing while the world was on the cusp of nuclear war. A man named Mark Gardner was playing golf when he got the alert, deciding that instead of finding shelter, he was just going to make this blurry video for his loved ones.
If you're watching this video, that means I didn't make it because of the missile that's coming towards Hawaii. I just parred the last hole and I just hit the shiznik out of my ball. So, I love you all, but I'm playing golf. It's the last thing I'm gonna do.
Mark's decision was so beloved by the golf community that a story was written about it on golf.com, in which the first line of the article is, "It would have been quite the way to go." But another man had a significantly less pleasant experience with the alert. James Sean Shields and his girlfriend were heading to the beach when they received the notification. Since they assumed death was inevitable, they decided they might as well die together on the beach. So as they kept driving, they called their loved ones to say goodbye. But shortly after James called his children, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. The couple rushed to a local clinic where James suffered a heart attack and had to be resuscitated by a doctor. James survived the ordeal, but a few months later he and his girlfriend filed a lawsuit against the state of Hawaii and the administrator of Haima for causing the heart attack. I couldn't find an update on that story, so we can only guess how James's legal battle ended. While the entire state was in chaos, the people at Haima were trying to figure out what to do. Apparently, although the agency had authorization from FEMA to send emergency alerts, they didn't have the ability to send out any other message, including one telling everyone that the alert was a false alarm. 13 minutes after the alert was sent, Haima took to Twitter to tell everyone it wasn't real. The governor of Hawaii at the time, David Ige, tweeted that it was a false alarm 17 minutes after the alert was first sent. When reporters later asked him why it took so long for him to tweet about it, Ige said he was busy making calls about the emergency. But then he also said, "I have to confess that I don't know my Twitter account logons and the passwords, so certainly that's one of the changes that I've made." Unfortunately, none of that really mattered because most of the state was too busy working on their last will and testament to check the old feed. The state government even tried displaying the message, "There is no threat" on electronic street signs, which is exactly what a person desperately speeding home to save their loved ones would take the time to read. Finally, after 38 minutes of Hawaiians thinking they were going to die, Haima figured out how to send a second message to everyone's phones telling them it was a false alarm. But that was long after James Shields had a heart attack, Trisha Padilla was hiding in a steel shipping container, and that one kid was swimming in sewage. In the days following, the state government conducted a full investigation into the event, ultimately blaming the whole thing on insufficient management controls, poor computer software, and human factors. In other words, the investigation into what exactly caused the problem narrowed it down to everything. Following the investigation, the head of Haima, Vern Miyagi, the same guy who was being sued for causing a heart attack, took responsibility for the mistake and resigned. The executive officer of Haima, Toby Claremont, announced that he would retire by the end of the year. Haima also announced some changes to their emergency alert system, now requiring 2 people to sign off on any alerts sent out. Miyagi also said that Haima employees will be counseled and drilled so this never happens again. But considering a drill is what got us into this mess, maybe that's not a great idea. As for the employee that sent out the notification, he was actually promoted to head of the agency. I'm kidding, they fired him after the investigation. Apparently he had a history of confusing drills and real-life events, which feels like the one thing you shouldn't have a history of in that job. Apparently the employee received death threats in the weeks following the alert, prompting him to go on NBC News and speak out anonymously.
I was 100% sure that it was the right decision, that it was real. I was convinced that it was real.
So just to be extremely clear, you are the person who triggered the false alert?
Yes. Unfortunately, I heard this is not a drill, and I didn't hear exercise at all. I'm really not to blame in this. It was a system failure, and I did what I was trained to do.
But whether or not you think he's to blame for the missile alert, he's definitely to blame for choosing to wear that shirt on television. When all was said and done, some people chose to look on the bright side. State Representative Chris Lee said that everyone was calmer and friendlier after the false alarm. He noticed strangers greeting each other and said it was like Christmas morning and everyone got a car. So perhaps we could all use a quick nuclear threat from time to time to remind us to cherish the little things in life. Now please consider subscribing or I'll make you work a shift at Zippy's during a nuclear war.